G'day guys and welcome back to Ados the Great YouTube channel. So guys, in today's video I'm going to be blind reacting to the Fox League NRL predictions. I got my wife to open up the website for me so I know nothing going into it. So let's blind react, let's go down and let's see what the first one is. So Sam Walker to play Origin is the first prediction, I guess. So, unless of injuries, I don't see Sam Walker slotting in. I think you're going to have Rhys Walsh there somewhere. Um, Daly Cherry Evans and Cam Munster. I really don't see a position there for Sam Walker. I think he's probably another year away unless injuries occur. So, yeah, well, probably more than that until DCE retires, I'd say. Because the halves, unless DCE falls off completely this year, the halves are pretty much a lock of Cam Munster and DCE, unless, of course, there's injuries. But I think Sam Walker's a little bit away from playing Origin. So let's have a quick look, see what the article says. As I said, Cherry Evans said to be the Queensland halfback. Cameron Munster 5'8". Yeah, look, I do agree that Walker is good enough. I don't think it's the right time to play him there, to play him in Origin yet, because we've got the coverage we need. Unless there's more injuries. I don't know. I highly doubt Walker will play this year, but it does say should injuries strike. So okay, yeah. Look, if there are enough injuries to warrant Walker playing, then yeah, he might make his debut. I was calling for his debut last year. I said he definitely deserves it, but it's only if injuries happen. If there's no injuries, then I wouldn't play him. Obviously, Cam Munster and DCE are the halves. If Queensland are down 2-0, I'd definitely be looking at probably pairing Walker with someone else in the halves just to get him some Origin experience. But other than that, I don't see him making his debut this year. All right, next one. Broncos to make top 8. Now I have got my ladder predictions up, guys. So go and check that out. But I do not see the Broncos making the top 8. I think they will need time for their new players to gel. I think that they still don't really have that halves pairing for Reynolds. I don't know who they're going to go with for that. They've got a few players that can potentially fill that 5'8" position. Katoni Staggs is the name they've put out. Highly doubt he will, but that's one player. They've got Albert Kelly. They've got Billy Walters. They've got a whole bunch of players that could fill in that 5'8" position, but I think there's more questions than there is answers at the moment for the Broncos. I think they'll struggle to have a good start to the season, and I don't see them making the top 8. So both these two, obviously the first one's a possibility, but I still think it's unlikely. This one's unlikely. Storm to miss the top 4, I don't see this happening. Yeah, look, they have lost some pretty big names last year, obviously losing Dale Finucane, Nico Hines. There was a few other sort of fringe players they've lost as well. Obviously, Josh Adokar is another big loss. Yeah, they have gained Xavier Coates. Look, I don't think they're going to be as elite as they were last year, but I highly doubt they're going to drop out of the top 4. So this is another one I disagree with. I agree with this. This is another one that I have also predicted the Knights to get the spoon. I do think the Knights will get the spoon. I think it'll be a fight between them and the West Tigers for it. Look, I don't see them doing that well this year. I think the loss of Mitchell Pearce is going to be a bigger loss than most people think. Yeah, look, they have gained like Dane Gagai and players like that, but I just don't think they've done enough. I don't. So they are out of my top 8 for sure, but I do have them winning the spoon this year. Ponga signs richest deal in NRL history. I agree with this. I think it'll be the Dolphins getting him, possibly. It could be a fight between the Knights and the Dolphins to keep Ponga, but I think if the Dolphins can sign Rhys Walsh, then they won't look at going too deep and throwing too much money at Ponga. But this one is another one I do kind of agree with. I think if it's a bidding war, I think the Knights will probably end up winning. That is if the Dolphins manage to sign Rhys Walsh. Burton to play Origin for the Blues. I don't disagree with this fully, but I think there's just too many stars ahead of him at the moment. You got Latrell Mitchell, you got Tommy Turbo. There's probably like Clint Gutherson's another name you can throw out there. Nathan Cleary is obviously, he's not going to play in the halves because you got Cleary there. You've got players like Cody Walker that are probably just slightly ahead of him. Jerome Luai, there's a lot of players that I think would probably be ahead of him. So I don't see him playing Origin this season unless it's maybe a utility role off the bench. But I do agree with his bottom statement where it says even a World Cup selection. I do think he will get named in the World Cup side because normally when Australia names the World Cup sides, they name like 25 to 26 sort of players, and then they'll run like not so much a reserve grade squad, but a reserve grade squad against some of your weaker nations. So definitely a possibility for the World Cup. Latrell for top point scorer. As a Rabbitohs fan, I would love this. I think there's always a possibility that he could be up there. He's going to take over the goal kicking. Unless Blake Taft does, he's probably going to have to take on a lot more ball running, and he's going to have his hands on the ball a lot more, especially with players departing like Dane Gagai, Adam Reynolds, even Jaden Stewart. They had their hands on the ball a lot. With those players going, he's going to be, in my opinion, much more involved. So there is a possibility that he could win it. But when you've got players like Adam Reynolds on the Broncos, you've got Ruben Garrick, you got Nathan Cleary. There's a lot of players that could be gunning for it as well. This is a bold prediction. Do I think it's unachievable? No, but I'm not going to say it's going to happen. So that's my take on that one. Next up, this one, I'm going to say no straight away. I don't think Parramatta will be a top 4 side. I think they're going to be all right, but they'll be a top 8 side, not a top 4 side. I don't see Mitchell Moses playing all that well. Yeah, I don't know. I agree with the first statement. If the Eels are to break their premiership hoodoo, then Mitchell is going to have a pretty fair year. I agree he will probably have to have a Dally M sort of year for the Eels to even get close to the premiership, but I just can't see this one happen. So this one's a no from me. Madge to be the first coach sacked. I disagree. I think Adam O'Brien will probably be the first coach sacked. Michael Maguire will probably follow soon after. I think those two will be the only coaches sacked in 2022. That's my opinion on that one. So while I don't agree with this fully, this is a possibility of this happening. Next up, Rhys Walsh to the Dolphins. As I touched on before, this is definitely a possibility. I do think we'll see this happen before the end of 2022. So, yes, I'm going to tend to agree with this one. I think the Dolphins will sign Rhys Walsh, and if they don't sign him, they're going to go all in for Ponga. Tonga to win the World Cup. All right, so look, this is a possibility, but I think your heavyweights like Australia and New Zealand will probably Probably have something to say about that. England's another side that could pose a threat, but I think out of three teams that could win, I do think Australia, New Zealand, and Tonga are probably the only three at the moment. So we will see. We will see. But I do think Tonga definitely have a shot, as does realistically every team. But whether they do or not, it's up for debate. Eels versus Roosters grand final. I half agree with this. I think the Roosters will have a big bounce back year, and that really hurts me to say. Um, I don't see the Eels making the grand final. I think it'll be either Panthers or Manly. Again, I do think Storm will have a pretty good year, but they won't be as clinical. So I do think it'll be Panthers or Manly versus the Roosters this year. Not a grand final. I'd rather Manly versus Roosters, if any, but not really grand finals that I'd be super keen on. Obviously, my Bunnies, I'd love them to make it, but with the changes at the club, it's going to be a tough task for us to do. So if there was a grand final that I would absolutely love to see, it'd probably be the Raiders and Rabbitohs. I love the Raiders. I've got a lot of respect for that team, and obviously I've been a Bunny supporter all my life. So yeah, if there was two teams I'd want to see in the grand final, it'd be those two. Other than that, Broncos versus Rabbitohs would be a hell of a fun grand final to watch. Adam Reynolds against his old club in the biggest stage in NRL. That would be amazing. But yes, I do disagree with this take. Heavily disagree with this one. I do not think the Rabbitohs will miss the top 8. I think at the very lowest they'll finish 7th. Look, as it says down the bottom, South still have a strong side on paper. Walker, Cook, Mitchell, it's all about if they can stay healthy. We do have depth. We've got a decent amount of depth. If Latrell falls out, we've got Blake Taff. If Walker falls out, we've got Taff that can fill in the halves as well. Cookie falls out, we've got Romano, Cook, we've got Saliva Havili. I think this is one of the years where we do actually have a decent amount of depth to cover positions as well. We've got a lot of youngsters coming up that I have been really, really impressed with. Yes, Dan Gagai is a huge loss, but we've got a young fella called Josiah Karapani, who I think could slot into the centre position easily. So, yes, I do think this one's, as the young kids would say these days, this one's cat. All right, moving on, we have Sonny Williams to fight Gallen in grand final week. Would love to see it. Would love to see SBW put Paul Gallen on his ass. Yes, this is definitely something that could happen. Don't really know why it's in an NRL prediction. I do get that they're NRL players, but it's boxing, so let's move on from that one. Eels to win the premiership. No, I don't. I reckon this is an Eels person that's done this list because I can't see this happening. If they are to win this premiership, I think it is going to have to be this year because there's a lot of players leaving the club. A lot of questions about what they're going to look like beyond 2022. So, yeah, I do think this. If there is a year they're going to want to win it, it is this year. But I don't see this happening. And that looks like it's it. All right, guys. So let's just run through one more time the predictions, and I will obviously go back and say if I agree or disagree. So let's go. It's not going to be like a proper prediction. So Sam Walker to play Origin, I disagree unless of injury. Broncos to make the top 8, I disagree. Storm to miss the top 4, I disagree. Knights to get the spoon, I do agree. Ponga, Richards deal, I do agree. Burton to play for the Blues, disagree. Latrell, top point scorer, somewhat disagree. Highly disagree. Somewhat agree. I'll leave it at that because I do think Adam O'Brien could be the first one sacked. I do agree with that, or somewhat agree. I somewhat agree with that. This is not going to happen. That's not going to happen. This is likely to happen. That is not going to happen. All right, guys, that is going to wrap it up from me. Thank you all so much for watching. And as always, guys, I will see you in the next one. Thanks, guys.